Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Vegan Spirituality online gathering. My name is Lisa Levinson. I'm the campaigns director for In Defense of Animals and also helped to found vegan spirituality many moons ago to explore veganism as a spiritual practice. And you can do that with us here online, or we also host retreats. And we have groups in various cities that do meet together in person. Los Angeles, New York, and Philadelphia, among some others. So we hope you can find us. You can do that via Facebook. You can find us at Vegan Spirituality Community. It's a good place to look us up. So today we have our interview with a special guest, and I'd like to first introduce you to our co-host today. We have Mary Easonsey, who's here with In Defense of Animals.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for being here.
Yeah. And we also have Judy Carman, who is the author of Peace to All Beings and Homo Ahimsa, and also helped to co-found the Interfaith Vegan Coalition, along with yours truly. Hi, Judy.
Hi, Lisa. Thank you for the introduction. And it is great to be here. Thank you so much, all of you, for coming. So I have the great honor of introducing our very distinguished guest, which we're very, very lucky to have her, Reverend Carol Saunders. So I'm going to read a little bit and then we'll get into questions because we want to hear mostly from you, Reverend Carol. So Carol was a vegetarian, became a vegetarian in 1973 and vegan in 2011. She is an ordained interfaith and unity minister and is committed to helping people share the vegan message in their spiritual communities. Carol started and led a unity church in Chicago for 10 years. She currently hosts the Spiritual Forum podcast, where she has conversations with people from around the world on various spiritual topics. And I highly recommend you checking in on that. It's the spiritualforum.org. And there's all kinds of interviews that go way back. She's been doing this a long time, and every single one is fascinating. She also hosts an annual Whole Planet Spirituality Forum and Retreat at Unity Village, which is in Kansas City, basically. It's just on the east side of Kansas City. And it is coming right up in just, a month. And we'll talk more about that for sure. And she was inspired by the ethical vegetarian roots of unity, which a lot of people don't know about. So she compiled a booklet called The Forgotten Teachings of Charles Fillmore. He was one of the founders with his wife Myrtle of Unity. And so the booklet is called The Forgotten Teachings of Charles Fillmore, How Our Relationship with Animals Connects to Universal Love, Ethical Living, Spiritual Development, and World Peace. So that's a big deal. And it's very important today because the emphasis on his teachings and Myrtle's teachings have in some ways been lost at Unity. And I know there's a lot of people, some of them are listening in now, I'm sure, who are trying to bring that back. And Reverend Carol is one of those. She also has a blog site called Wolf and the Lamb, where she writes about universal love and vegan spirituality. She believes social movements are only truly effective when they are movements of love and peace. And I couldn't agree more. So, Reverend Carol, welcome. Thank you so much for taking the time to be with us. I can't imagine how busy you are getting ready for the retreat that's coming up. So, starting out, why don't you tell us a little bit about how you got inspired to go vegan? or vegetarian starting out and then going vegan.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Judy and Lisa, Mary, everybody who's with us tonight. I just really appreciate being on this platform and just being able to share the vegan journey. I think everyone has a different journey, and you introduced it that I became vegetarian in 1973. What's really interesting, I've been reflecting on this because it took me so long to become vegan, and I have in the past spent a good amount of energy going, how come it took me so long? But today I had this interesting epiphany, and it was kind of like, wow, I was a junior in high school in 1973, and I just announced to my family, I'm not eating meat anymore. And I had a podcast interview today with Priya Acharya on her new book. And we talked about how one of the reasons people have such a hard time going vegan or giving up meat, giving up dairy is because of the herdism, that we're so used to being in some sort of community, some sort of group that keeps us safe. And it goes back to this primal thing, like if we get outside the group, we might die. And so it's very hard for people to make these changes, which I honor. And today I honored my 15-year-old self who, who didn't have so much of a trouble in 1973, just saying, I'm doing it. And by God, I don't care what anybody says. So, good on her. I've been thinking about what an amazing person that she was. And I just really encourage everyone to, look back in their life at the times where they made decisions like this and just say, wow, she was a really cool person. So that was my epiphany today. Now, it took me a while to become vegan because I was living in ignorance like so many people are today. And it was the book Dominion by Matthew Scully that opened my eyes to everything, opened my eyes to factory farming, opened my eyes to the fishing, to animals in entertainment. It was interesting. I was vegan for so long, vegetarian for so long, but I wasn't an activist. I wasn't an advocate. I was just a private vegetarian. I was the only one I knew. And so I didn't know. I still thought there were happy farms. I just wasn't going to participate in them. And then when I found out that there aren't happy farms, and that it really is a horribly cruel situation, I learned about dairy. That's when I slowly made that move. And I, your introduction said I became vegan in 2011. Actually, I don't know. I don't have the date. I don't have a day. I don't. It was a period of time where I gave up eggs and cheese and milk, and I think the milk in my latte was the last thing I gave up. And it was harder because I had just spent the 40 some years before that with that being the staple of my diet. So I guess what I'm just want to reflect on is, first, when you make the decision, um, do it in the way it works for you. Some people just go cold turkey overnight. I did that with meat, never touched it after that, really. And then the vegan was more of a gradual change. And so it's been at least since 2011 since I've been vegan. So I credit Matthew Scully's book Dominion for opening my eyes. And that's really what got me more into activism or advocacy for the animals and speaking up. So that was a whole nother dimension of the vegan journey.
Yeah, it's a wonderful book. I mean, it's really, and he wrote it a while back. It's probably
Yeah.
over 10 years old.
I think I read it in 2005 or something like that.
Mhm.
Yeah. So 20
He's
years ago.
20 years old.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Time goes by.
And you have been an advocate ever since, and
Yeah.
especially to the spiritual people and to unity, specifically, and discovering that Charles and Myrtle were ethical vegetarians. The word vegan hadn't been invented yet when they were operating in the early 1900s, but they were clearly ethical vegetarians. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about the retreat. You've been organizing it for 5 years now, and I have been to all of them. And they are, in my opinion, revolutionary in that they bring in the importance of rising consciousness to the vegan movement. And I want to say that that Lisa is really the founding mother of all of this, just from what I know, but then you have been picking up on it and doing these retreats every year that have drawn many people in to understand the connection between veganism and spirituality. So the one coming up right away is October 16th to the 19th. And you can find it on the it's org, right? Org.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not too late to register. The theme is Homo Ahimsa Rising. And you are really, Carol, one of the foremost leaders in creating this community of spiritual vegans. And that's who we are, that, we're all together tonight. Please tell us more about the importance of spiritual growth as we seek to create a loving, nonviolent world.
Yeah, well, they go hand in hand. And I think that so much of the vegan movement is secular, and I think they're missing the component. And then so much of the spiritual world or the religious world is not vegan, and they're missing like a key component. So we kind of bring it all together. But I started this retreat, and you and Lisa helped me with the first one for sure. We kind of co-led that one, and the first one was really about bringing people together, and it was a lot of presentations, and then we've grown over the years, and now we're doing more work in consciousness, more work on spiritual development, working on ourselves. And I think it's so important to grow spiritually in this movement and as individuals. Um, s- if we don't, we find ourselves being angry, bitter, judgmental, um, anxious, in grief, all of the things all the trappings of being aware of what happens to animals. And that's a lower vibration. We don't want to be at that lower vibration. So together, we really need to learn how to raise our vibration to a place where we can be not only effective, but also bright lights on the planet. So I've been moving the retreat. I've been pulling more and more programming out and giving us more time to do the inner work. And the last few years, we've at least had a session or two focused on what do we need to work on as a person in order to become a less judgmental, a more peaceful and more loving person. Because I think that's so key to not only our own health and our own effectiveness, but the movement as a whole. So it's a real strong focus for the retreat.
Yeah. So, and Homo Ahimsa Rising is the theme. And so what does that mean, actually?
Yeah, well, look who's talking, the mother of the term. Yeah, so every year we have a different theme, and every year we have a different featured speaker, and every year we have a different, schedule. So every single retreat has a different flavor and a different feel to it, but they're all magical. And I picked the theme Homo Ahimsa Rising because that's what Spirit gave me. uh, Last year, it was a world that works for all. The year before, it was Peace Begins with Me. So Homo Ahimsa Rising, as you have written so eloquently in your book, it is a rising consciousness. So it's like, all right, who is hearing this call to rise in consciousness, to do our best to do the least harm on the planet, and to revere all of life. That's as you've written in your book, it's like, are we tired of being Homo sapiens? Are we tired of being the wise humans that seem to be destroying the planet and not really seeing the creatures, the animals as expressions of spirit, expressions of God. What else? What are we calling ourselves to? So the thing came to me as Homo Ahimsa rising, that we are rising in consciousness, in awareness to a new way of being. And like, who is hearing that call? If you're hearing it at all, come to the retreat and let's learn how to rise together. Now, our featured speaker will be the first to say, we're not rising. What we're doing is we're shedding, we're letting go. So it's almost like we're stuck under the water with a lot of baggage. And as we release the stuff, the weights, we become buoyant, and we rise up because we're more buoyant. We come to our natural state. So the idea is Homo Ahimsa, the human that is living in do the least harm possible and live in universal love and inner peace. It is a new consciousness, a new kind of human that is rising on this planet, and and um, and let's all get together and rise together.
So, okay, so how does that, we're all wanting to be the change we want to see in the world. And that's one of the reasons we're here tonight together. How do you see that, what you're doing, helping us with that, with changing, being the change we want to see in the world?
Okay. So I think that like the vegan movement, I think people are active, and they're advocates, and we're writing our letters, and we're holding up our signs, and we're doing everything we can, sharing the message. I think the message will be so much more magnified when we're coming from a place of true inner peace and of true universal love. And the challenge of that is that we aren't holding on to upset. We aren't holding on to resentment. We aren't holding on to um, dislike, So how can we embrace everyone? Can we love everyone? Okay, so this is the challenge. Can we face the reality of the world, how we treat animals, how we treat children, marginalized groups, and just the anxiety and the suffering in the world? Can we be awake to that? Can we know that some of our brothers and sisters are contributing to that suffering? And can we love them anyway? Can we love the hunter? Can we love the factory farmer? Can we love the slaughterhouse worker? And it's one of those things where we all have a trigger point, Some people are triggered by their mother-in-law. Some people are triggered by their boss. Some people are triggered by anybody who is abuses animals or children. And it's the ultimate challenge, right? I mean, it's the ultimate challenge to be able to behold every person as worthy of love, regardless of their behavior. Now, I think this is important because if we can rise up and actually express ourselves as universal love, it's like, I mean, I don't know who all here is Christian or not. I don't think it matters if you are or not, but the stories anyway are that Jesus embodied love so clearly that he attracted, so many people came to experience that love. And I think that's our goal, for us to be the beacons of light and love on the planet. And and um, that it becomes kind of this attractive force, so that we're not repelling everybody by making them wrong, but that we're attracting them to our energy. And for me, I think this is going to make the difference in the movement. I think this will be the tipping point, that we become the beings. So it's not just we want to be the change, we want to act in the way we want everyone to act regarding animals, but that we've got our consciousness in a place where we are at peace, okay with the way things are, while we're trying to change and also loving everyone along the way. So that's that's the goal. What do you think, Judy?
Wait, I had to unmute. It's so challenging. It is so incredibly challenging. And I kind of see it as a practice. Do
Yes.
you? Just
Yes.
because
Yeah.
we're not there yet, most of us. Some of us are, but certainly not me. And I see it as baby steps working in the direction of loving everyone, including not just the animals. That's easy for us, but
Yes.
the perpetrators that are involved in harming animals and children and people in general. But to move into that vibration space of loving everyone, it's gonna take time, I think, for most of us. I guess some people it comes overnight, but
I don't know that anything like that comes overnight, but what I think it takes is community. I think it takes
okay,
community. And so
okay.
to me, that's why the retreat or in any other community like this is so important because, well, I mean, so anybody who comes to the retreat, okay, the retreat is an experience in itself. Okay, it's 3 days of connection and collaboration. And by the way, if you can't attend, because it is kind of late to be hearing about it, we do have a virtual option. And anybody who attends either virtually or in person, it becomes a part of our community. So every 6 weeks we meet on Zoom if you want to, if you want to. And we share and we connect and we hold each other uh in loving community as we share our challenges. And then lately, Judy's got me doing this book study. So I'm leading a book study too every week with anybody in that community who wants to really, really do the hard work. So that's the community. So if you don't have community, it's so easy to just go back to how you were and your not so life affirming habits. And so I think time, yes, commitment, yes, dedication, yes, release, yes, faith, yes, trust, yes, and community. That's what it takes to make the change. And I don't think we have to say, oh gosh, this is so hard, it's going to take forever. I think that every time we have a moment when we're in the state of inner peace and universal love, I mean, that's it, and we need to savor those moments and collect those moments and then make them more and more and more and more. And like in community, we can share this is driving me nuts. This person, this situation. I was just on the interstate and I saw a slaughterhouse truck. My heart, just fell. We all understand that. And then, I think we're going to talk about prayer in a minute, but we can pray for the perpetrators. Everybody who is doing things that are harmful didn't start off that way. Everybody was conditioned. We're all conditioned. We're all brainwashed into the systems that we're in. Um, and the spiritual path to me is about recognizing all of the conditioning, everything that we've learned from education, from our parents, from our ancestors, from our society, from our culture, from our governments, everything, and question all of it and let it go. Because underneath all of this is this magnificent, divine, very, very powerful self. And we can behold that in each other, even if we see others, quote, misbehaving, because we know the truth underneath all those layers that they too are, a beloved, child of God.
And that they do not know what they do.
They don't know what they're doing. Yes.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
don't know that. And yeah, it's so interesting how I watched another debate earlier today about veganism. And it's like you can never win that debate from an ethical standpoint. You just can't. Even if you're the best debater, you can't win that. And so you can watch really, really good debaters just kind of melt or deflect or make jokes or, all that stuff that they do because it's facing them now so clearly that they're not prepared to answer the question of morality. Is it moral to kill when we don't have to? And they pull the Bible, they pull this, and they pull you know, the brain, the testosterone, whatever it is, we've heard it all. Plants have feelings, carrots, we've heard all. Um, and you can see that underneath that is this child, this child that is only just repeating stuff, the conditioning, all the stuff that we've learned. And so I think if we're able to see that, or at least entertain the possibility that underneath this, who we might have previously thought is a horrible, horrible, violent person, is a child. And I'm not saying we excuse the behavior, but most people just don't know what they're doing. Just like I didn't know what I was doing for 40 some years when I was consuming dairy. I did not know.
I think most of us here can say that we started out eating meat, and unless we were born vegan, then yeah, we didn't have any idea, and we were programmed, but there was something in us that loved animals on some level, and it finally came out, and we were able to go, oh, but then of course our first reaction is, well, all I need to do is tell this to everyone and they'll all go vegan, and it doesn't work that way. And I think
and
that's
I don't know that everyone's at the level of consciousness to do that in this lifetime. I don't know that, and I can't decide that for them. But like I get in these little tit for tats on Facebook. I'm sure many of you do, where somebody posts something and like, I guess the last one I did was something like somebody posted, what's something like, 20 years from now, people are going to look back at and say was absolutely ridiculous. I can't believe humans did that. And I said, eating animal flesh and secretions. Of course, I got all this stuff coming at me, and so the thing is, all right, there's a stimulus. Okay, so they stimulate me in some way. And how am I going to react? Okay, so what I'm learning to do, and what I'm wanting our community to learn how to do, is just pause until that reaction can be an even keeled, loving, peaceful reaction. You can still tell the truth, but not like the snarly or or even a snide thing, or whatever it is that we do when we're triggered or offended. So this is a small step. How can we be in conversation? How can we even reply to a comment on Facebook or whatever platform you're on, um, uh, in a way that just speaks evenly and lovingly? And then when they come back and snap back, there's kind of a blessing and kind of a prayer, and even a pause to go inside and ask, is it even effective or the right thing for me to do right now to respond or not? Responding, speaking is not always the right thing to do. I'm not saying being silent is the right thing to do all the time. I'm just saying we have to hone our gifts of discernment so that we can discern what to say when and how, and when not to speak, in order to be most effective, not just the most vocal.
So a lot of it depends on our growing ability to listen to spirit, to listen to, or you could call it our intuition, our sacred self, whatever works for you, but something along that line, so that we're not listening to our ego.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's hard when we're triggered. It's hard because there's something, the ego's really, really clever, because we think we're going to have this kind of release of, I can't remember which one it is, dopamine, one of them, a million chemicals, when we have this little, punch back. It feels good. It feels good to punch back. That feels good. I got him, but was it effective? And in the end, what has it done for my inner peace? And then how can I be an effective person on the planet if I'm experiencing inner angst and discord, So if we can walk through life without angst and inner discord, and be even and responsive and not reactive, and again loving everybody, um, I just think this is the key to tipping the scales on the vegan movement or message to create the world that we want to create.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, Carol, and which is, of course, why I'm here and dedicated to this movement in this way, because there's, as we all know, there's so many actions going on that are offending people tremendously, and just making them go, oh, those crazy vegans, I don't want to have anything to do with them.
Yeah.
So if you hear that word, I'm not listening, or I'm going to argue back or whatever. I don't want to forget to ask you, what are some of the subjects that are going to be at the retreat?
Okay. All right. I just had a thought, so I'm gonna say something, then I'm gonna go into subjects.
Okay.
But this is what I think. What if vegans stood on the corner, and instead of shouting everybody down, just handed out all love cards and prayed with people, and we just showed ourselves to be these amazing people. Because what I want to say about the retreat is that one thing that we do have great success with is when the non-vegans are invited to our retreat, omnivores are invited to our retreat, vegetarians are invited to our retreat, and the people who are meat eaters, you can watch them transform over the three days, and it's not. Sometimes it's because they learn information, but what I've noticed is it's around being, it's them being around vegans that are kind and loving and nice and accepting. And sometimes these people sign up for a retreat because it's Unity Village and it was the weekend that worked for them, and they don't really know what they're stepping into. Then it's like, oh my God, all these vegans are here. And then they find that everybody loves them and isn't bugging them, making them wrong or anything like that. That's, I think, has a lot of conversion potential, and we've seen it happen at the retreat. So that's part of it too. Okay, so here are some of the things that are going to be going on at the retreat. I'm going to be talking about the forgotten teachings of Charles Fillmore for anybody in Unity who wants to learn more about what the original Fillmore teachings. Our featured speaker is Timber Hawkeye. He is the author of Buddhist Boot Camp and books called like faithfully religionless or something like that. Something like that. I can't remember. But he is a former Buddhist monk, but he still lives by the vows, the Buddhist vows. So do no harm, do the least harm. He lives by that. And he is going to be doing the inner work with us to help us with our angst or whatever it is that bugs us or whatever it is that triggers us. It's going to be more of an interactive session than like a PowerPoint presentation. So it's an opportunity to stand up and say, I just hate those people over there. What do I do with that? Or let me tell you what happens to me when how can I deal with all of this, angst, pain that's going on? I can barely breathe when I pass a slaughterhouse. A slaughterhouse truck on the freeway. How do I deal with that? So he's going to do the inner work with us, and I'm really excited about that. Reverend Sarah Bowen is going to be doing a workshop on connecting to Earth, and anybody who's had any exposure to Sarah, it's all interactive and it's all experiential, and we're going to be taking nature walks and communing with trees and squirrels and whatnot out of her workshop. In the evenings, we have activities on Saturday evening. We're going to be watching the short documentary Forest Man, and then Dr. Silas Rao, who's the founder and executive director of Climate Healers, is going to lead us in a discussion about that film. And then, because that takes us through Friday. On Saturday, Dr. Nayana Shah, who is an international theoretical quantum physicist, and she was raised in the Jain tradition. She's going to be doing a workshop called the Homo Ahimsa Spiral. And I'm real excited about that. She says, dedicated to living a conscious, compassionate, and creative life, illuminated by a constant inquiry of truth. And through her personal journey rooted in Jain upbringing, she'll share how non-harming, non-violence is a process and a path that's revealed by light messengers from the universe. So it's going to be kind of a science and spirituality thing. I'm pretty excited about that. And then on Saturday, we're bringing Timber back because we know that we're going to have some stuff come up. And so we're going to handle the stuff that came up the day before with Timber, our featured speaker, so that we can kind of find some closure on that. We have a panel discussion on Homo Ahimsa with you, Judy, and you, Lisa, and also Silas. And I'm excited about that because we could have the three of you to talk about, Homo Ahimsa and how do we live that life. Saturday afternoon, I'm going to have leading a ceremony to honor animals and habitats. So anybody can bring whatever memorabilia, picture, trinket, whatever of a person, an animal, anything, a habitat, anything they want to honor, and we will create an altar together and a sacred space. Some of the things I want to share is we're doing more spiritual practices. We're going to be walking the labyrinth together. I have a wonderful person coming in to do a sound bath for us so that we can just kind of I don't know. Last time I did this with her, it was a very meditative experience, and I had visions of a future world in my sound bath experience. And we're also going to be doing a burning bowl. It's going to be after Timber's first discussion session with us, because again, I'm expecting stuff to come up. All right. If stuff isn't coming up, then we're probably not confronting ourselves on a deeper level. So stuff comes up. What do we want to release? And so we'll be right there with the burning bowl to release whatever has come up into the burning bowl. And to me, all of this is to help us discern who do we want to be going forward, and what do you want to let go of. Anyway, so Sunday we have all of the closure, and Sunday afternoon after lunch we have a communications workshop, which we always kind of end with how do I go and talk to people now? And Laura Abe helps us with that. Before we leave, we have great food. We got great food, three caterers, and they're all whole foods, plant-based, and locally sourced. So that kind of answers the question about the retreat. I did mention that there's a virtual option for people who can't come. So, and the people who attend virtually, it is my hope that we create a community there. So when people who are there in person are meeting and talking in groups, that the people who are attending virtually are put in a Zoom room and can have the same conversations.
Sounds absolutely fabulous. I know it will be, Carol. Now I want to talk about prayer, but I want people to have time to ask questions. So, real quick, I know you're I don't know, your prayers are just so moving that I've heard you say. And please tell us how you use prayer and how each of us can use prayer to bring about the world that that we're working toward, and our own selves. Yeah.
It's interesting, right? As you were talking, I thought, I need to lead a prayer class. I can do that because a lot of people don't really, and you know what? I remember I did not grow up with prayer in my household. I didn't grow up with it. We never prayed. Not once. Not one time. Not one time. Not even grace. So I always thought, wow, I'm just not a prayer. I'm just not good at prayer. It's like, but there's no such thing, there's no such thing. And really it's just about relaxing into the space of connecting. We all have a connection with the divine, and So there are steps to the prayer that I do, and I think that it would be really wonderful to do an affirmative prayer class. So how do I use prayer? I do a weekly prayer call on Tuesday morning, 7:30 a.m. Central Time, where we pray for the animals and the awakening of humanity. Only a few people come on that call, but if you want to join us, join us. And so I open the prayer, and then we each speak or say something or pass, and then I end up closing the prayer. But see, I think prayer is a way of talking to God. It is a way of affirming, stepping out of this material world that we're in, into a space, into the divine invisible realm, which sounds a little woo-woo, but it's not. And into that space where it's already done. Okay. So it's like, this is what affirmative prayer is. So it's not like, oh God, help me. Oh God, help me deal with this, or please change the slaughterhouse workers' hearts. Please change the hearts of the people who work for the big ag. It's really more about transforming yourself, so that we begin to see things differently. So I don't know if I'm answering your question or not, but so when I pray for the animals, for example, I do with other people. We do create an energy space, and we do like send our love to all of the animals that are suffering, so that they may experience the light and experience love. And I do believe that you don't have to be physically somewhere. You don't have to be at the same time or anything like that. You can even pray for things in the past. So we do that. And then we also pray for the awakening of humanity, which starts with our own awakening. So we recognize that I am not yet awake, and I ask God, Spirit, higher self, to show me what I need to wake up to. So that it's not like everybody else is a problem and they need to wake up, but that I need to as well. So I'm not sure if that answers your question.
Yes, it does. I just think that one thing, the things that I've learned from you is, or been validated by you, is how powerful prayer is. It isn't just saying a few words. It's really something. It makes something happen, and it raises
It's energy.
the vibration. Yeah, it is,
Yeah.
and the words are so powerful. And so it's just, I think a lot of people, especially vegan activists, don't really value it. And because it's not active, it's more of a, there's something I'm doing quietly by myself, maybe, or in a small group. And
Or it's not material, I mean,
right.
you have to have an understanding or a belief in something beyond the material, so the energetic field. And I
Right.
I think humans, we are so tiny fraction of who we truly are, tiny fraction of our capability. And we've completely cut ourselves off from everything that's natural for human
Yeah.
beings. Everything that's
Yeah.
natural is this energy, is to be able to like transport ourselves, and to have our energy impact each other, and to be able to communicate without speaking, and things like these are natural things that we don't remember how to do, and we think it's all woo woo, and it's all magic, and it's all not real, not in the real world, and that's just all ways to keep us cut off from that.
Mhm.
So I think it is powerful, and I think, like I interviewed Annika Lucas, who was a survivor of satanic ritual abuse, and she was a child sex slave, and she talked about in her lowest time, where she thought she was dying, she talked about seeing a light, like the light was there for her, and that's what caused her to be able to revive herself and live. And see, I think that light, like when we pray, I think that we may be that light, okay? Like somebody who sees a light, experiences comfort in the middle of tragedy or sorrow. It may be somebody is praying for them, or holding their hearts in their hands in prayer. We can do that. We can do that.
Right. Yeah, I so agree with that. And the longer I live, the more convinced I am that it almost is a physical thing when you pray for somebody. It's just it's an amazingly powerful action to take. And even though it seems like we're just sitting and with our eyes closed, it is so much more than that. And of course, we're talking about doing both, taking action, but also being in prayer. But being in prayer is going to help us understand what action to take.
And prayer
And
is action. I get really kind of annoyed when people, thoughts and prayers, that's so dumb. You need to do something. Well, you
Mhm.
can do something, but prayer is something,
Right. Yeah.
It is
It's
an
a
action.
huge thing.
Yeah.
It's maybe way bigger than anything physical we could do
Yeah.
on the material plane. Well, I'm feeling like there are
There are
questions,
questions.
people who want to talk. So, Lisa, can you open up for questions? And do you see some?
Yes. Well, first of all,
See.
I want to say thank you to Reverend Carol for sharing all the details of this retreat. And there's so many ways to join in. People can tune in virtually, they can be there in person, and there's a wonderful community offered in both situations. So really encourage everyone to tune in. This is a very unique experience to be part of a vegan and spiritual retreat. So please do check it out. We have a question here for you from Barb. And the question is, I work for 2 Episcopal churches who are doing a month-long season of creation. Nothing in the materials mentions food other than soil and sustainability. What might be an effective way to raise the issues of farmed animals? And as we go into this, I want to say to Barb, we would love to connect with you. Judy and I are doing a very special project with the Episcopal churches and a group called the Episcopal Network for Animal Welfare, where we are working to end lobster boil fundraisers within the community. So please do connect with us. And now I'd love to have Reverend Carol answer your question.
Yeah, I was going to say the Interfaith Vegan Coalition. So the season of creation, I don't exactly know what it is they're after, but I would think the creative process and the 7 days of creation would come up somehow, and that the creation of the animals and the creation of humanity and the creation of the habitats and I would think that you would be able to bring that in. The idea that in Genesis, and again, whether or not you believe this is literal or figurative, don't you think it's interesting that the land animals and humans were created on the same day? I think that's really interesting because I think it doesn't really show that there's this massive hierarchy such that, we're going to wait a few weeks to do the humans. We're created on the same day. And so animals are so loved by their creator. So I don't know, again, I don't know exactly what the season of creation with the Episcopal Church is, but I would want to bring in all of creation, all of creation, and remind them on the 6th day that animals were created alongside humans and that God said it was good.
Perfect. That is so important to remember that it is good. And we are just so happy that you can share your thoughts on this with us, Carol. Just checking to see if there's any other questions here that we might have. One is some kind of logistical questions. When is the retreat, and how can I connect with the virtual version of the retreat?
Yeah, so if you go to the spiritualforum.org, there's a tab for retreat. everything about the retreat is on there except the menus, but pretty much everything. The whole schedule's on there and everything. You can register. Actually, the registration is going to be going up tomorrow, but I can hold it open a couple more days because I need to start getting a count for the 3 days and 3 lunches and 3 dinners and all of the programming. Is $429, and the virtual is $109. And I know that that's high for virtual, but we have 2 people dedicated to making this a good experience for you. And you can register for the virtual event online at thespiritualforum.org/retreat. Again, you'll be able to participate in almost everything. When people in the in-person experience start sharing, we'll probably turn off the cameras so that you guys can do your own sharing, so that everybody has their own sense of security. So you can register there. And we need at least 10 people to hold it. And like I said, we have 2 dedicated people, one on the Zoom room and one doing all of the sound and stuff like that. So that's why it's priced where it is to pay for those guys.
I might add that Reverend Carol does not make a profit on this.
Yeah, it's pretty much
priced
break even. Yeah.
Yeah, to pay for the place and the speakers and all that. Yeah.
The food,
The food. Oh yeah, the food, which is
Yeah,
amazing. The amazing food.
yeah. And I try to clear enough money so that I can put all the down payments down for the next year and get some promotional materials and stuff like that. So I think I really do think it's a magical, special experience. And then again, you're in a community then. Now, you're in a community here. If you go to Creation Care, I see people talking about Creation Care Church. I'm sure they have a community. I know that Compassion Consortium has a community. Um, I don't want to compete with communities, but we do. Anybody who wants to stay connected, and stay in the conversation, and go deeper, and to have a support structure is welcome to participate, whether you attend virtually or in person on an ongoing basis between retreats. And we have a lot of people who come back every year. Probably at least half are return people. So, and that's growing. So, yeah, sign up. Yeah,
growing because it's a wonderful experience, and people feel changed or transformed as a result of it. We also have another question. We have Donna is saying that she's involved with the Unity Spiritual Center in Bend, Oregon. How does one approach the subject of more vegan offerings during the food after the Sunday service in a way that resonates with the spiritual community? She is thinking of creating a position paper and also showing a prayer for compassion. Any other ideas?
Yeah, those are great ideas. What I did when I was leading a church, and I founded a church, and I used Earth Day as the opening, because and I remember my very first church, this is way before I was even a minister. I was just on a steering team of this little church. And I remember asking my minister, what do you think about doing like an Earth Day service? And she said, great, why don't you do it? And I'm like, whoa. And so I've been doing them ever since. And to me, Earth Day, she asked me to do so if you ask, your minister might ask you to do the talk. But the whole Earth Day is about honoring the earth. And it was the easiest segue into, and since we're going to be talking about lowering our footprint and walking more lightly on the planet and living with all of creation, let's have our potluck be plant-based this time. I have found that is the easiest sell. I also found that when I did that first with my congregation, they all kind of went to the corner and started grumbling, oh, she's baking, let's eat plant, blah, blah, blah. They did that for a while. And then they all got into it. They all started making doing their research and finding plant dishes, and they made it. And we had the most colorful, most beautiful potluck on Earth Day. So we did it every Earth Day after that. So I think that's one way in. I think another way in is, especially if you're a Unity Church, you can order my booklet, the Forgotten Teachings of Charles Fillmore. You can lead a class on it, a little study on it, either in an afternoon or over 3 weeks. And you can have that group then out of their study, create a potluck for everybody. I have T-shirts that I have at the retreat that says, "Let's make Unity vegan again." And and on the back it says, "Join the movement," and there's a cow. So I'm selling those T-shirts. My thought is, I'm not here to convert everyone in Unity to vegan, but since Unity has vegan roots, why don't we, when we're in Unity together, why don't we make everything that we do together vegan? And then you can go home and do whatever you want, but we're going to raise the bar and live in alignment with the Fillmore teachings when we're together. So of course our potlucks will be vegan, and of course that we will take steps to not use animals. We won't have the barbecues, and we won't go to the circus and things like that. So that's my vision, is that we're not converting people, but we're bringing that message back to Unity so that Unity can restore ourselves. We were the most successful when we were listening to the Fillmore teachings.
Beautiful. Thank you for reinvigorating those teachings, Carol. There are a couple other questions one is about the retreat. Will all of the days of the virtual retreat be recorded? And then in case the person has another commitment, and also are there scholarships? And does it include, I think, possibly the fee, the sleep accommodation? So those were a couple questions.
Yeah. Okay. So we will be recording most of the presentations, and they will be available for playback for, I think, 2 weeks. So that's available to you. Again, the times when people start doing, if they're going to start doing deep sharing at the in-person event, we will stop the camera then, just so that everybody there in the room, feels that they're talking to the people. And then you guys can go talk on your own. So those sharing sessions won't be recorded. I didn't even mention the social nights, the evenings. We kind of have social nights, but they will not be recorded. But all of the days will be recorded and available. The registration does not include sleep accommodations, but there are accommodations on site. Now, the hotel is right there on site. I think most of the rooms are full. I think they are full. We still have an Airbnb. We've got 3 rooms available open for the Airbnb. I'm sure there'll be a couple cancellations for the hotel, but if you're interested in coming, you 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 probably want to get in the Airbnb, and the Airbnb is right there on the site. You can walk to the meeting room, and that's a really fun way to attend also, because there's a kitchen and a living area and shared baths, but you can have your own room. So those are the sleep accommodations. I don't really have scholarships available. I do offer discounted rates for people who volunteer. And so that's something that I can possibly do.
Wonderful. Thank you for all of the details and logistics, Carol. We've got the big idea, and we also had a lot of our questions answered. So I want to thank you for taking the time to do this, and we're all so excited about it. I know Judy and I will be there, and we're just thrilled. Was wondering if you might want to close us out tonight with either a saying, a prayer, anything you'd like to do, and if not, Judy and I will do that.
I'm happy to pray. We talked all about prayer, so let's pray. Okay. All right. I just invite everyone to take a deep breath. And as we breathe, we just welcome spirit. We welcome life, love, wisdom, power, all that is good. We welcome the creative energy of God, spirit, source energy, whatever name you have for it. And we say thank you. Thank you for life. thank you for our ability to reflect, for our ability to grow, and for our ability to continually awaken. We're so grateful for this, our bodies, and for our awareness, and our awareness for the animals. We're so grateful for the creation of all animals. And let's just collectively establish our own energy in our bodies, and then know that each person's light is now coming together, and we're creating this massive, wonderful light energy vortex, and we just send it out into the world to every animal that is alone, that is suffering, that is afraid, that is anxious. And we just hold their hearts, and we say that we are here with you. We love you. We bless you. We appreciate you. We behold the living God, Christ, angel self. I'm trying to think of other names you might have for the God within. We just behold the divinity of every single animal on this planet, knowing that they are beloved by God, they are created by God and loved by God, and that we pray for the restoration of our relationship. Thank you, everyone, for being here. I bless each person here, and just know that we each go forward into the world as light beings to share our love, to share our peace, to share our light, to share our wisdom, and to be open to listening and appreciating and also loving everyone. Thank you, God. And so it is. Amen.
Thank you, Reverend Carol. That was a beautiful, beautiful prayer. And I'm so grateful to you for joining us and for sharing your light with us, with all of us, and to everyone who's participated today. We're just happy to be here in community exploring veganism as a spiritual practice together. So thank you all
Thank you, Lisa.
very much. We hope to
Judy.
see you at the retreat and also at our next online gathering. Many blessings to all of you. Have a wonderful evening. Thank you so much.
Blessings, everybody. Thank you so much, Reverend Carol. Thank you,
Oh
everyone.
gosh, thank you guys. It was so fun.
It really was.
Yay.
Lots of hearts floating up, I'm seeing.
Yes, floating hearts.
Mhm.
And lots of love in the chat box too. We're sending it right back to all of you. What a pleasure. Thanks so much, everyone. Have a beautiful evening. Good night.
Bye, everybody. Lots of love.